everything looked good. We started to get into place to take off, and then a storm hit. So we had the perfect Disney family vacation until everything fell apart on the way home. You'd never believe it. It wasn't trying to get into the airport. It wasn't TSA. It wasn't a holdup there. We got onto the plane. We were boarded. Everything was situated. My wife, my daughter, my son, daughter-in-law, and 15-month-old grandson, all of us put in the seats that we're supposed to be put on the airplane. We pull back from the gate, and then a storm starts to hit Orlando on our way back to Oklahoma City. All right, so that doesn't sound terrible. Storms go through Orlando all the time, right? Well, not this storm. It didn't go through Orlando. It decided to sit on Orlando, and it sat on us. So the plane literally was rocking and rolling while we sat there because of the wind and the heavy rain and the thunder and the lightning. It was loud. It was dark. It was a mess. Federal law says we've got to go back to the gate after 3 hours. Well, the pilot tried to, but there was no gate to go to because all of the other planes had already gotten to all of the gates, and so there was nowhere to go. We sat there for more than 3 hours. Finally, at the 4th hour, they finally got us a place to go to let people off who wanted to get off. We thought about it. We talked about it. Like, oh, should we get off the plane or not? But there were too many variables because, did I mention we had a 15-month-old grandson on board? We just had no idea what would happen if we got off. Somebody got on from the Orlando airport and said, I can assure you, if you get off right now, there is not a plane available. There's not a seat available for you until midday Tuesday. And this was on a Sunday. So we decided to wait it out. Okay, that seems like a good idea, in theory. The storm never left. So we pulled back away from the gate again. We started for another hour and then another hour. My wife had been looking at Flight Tracker and she saw that there were 45 planes ahead of us. 45 planes ahead of us to take off before we could go. And the pilot comes on and said, well, we think we're in line and we're probably going to go, but the FAA's put into effect this rule that a plane has to get 25 miles away. It was just forever. We knew that they were getting close to timing out again. And so we were so close to having to time out and go back to the gate one more time because the 3 hours was almost up. So at about 2 hours and 50 more minutes, the pilot said, we're in line. We're going to go. We should be able to take off shortly. It took forever. We actually sat on that plane on the tarmac in Orlando. Did I mention with a 15-month-old grandson who was an angel, by the way? He was so much better than all of us. We, the adults who knew what was going to happen if we missed our flight from Atlanta to Oklahoma City, we understood that that was not good. He was perfectly happy. He was so sweet. He was so wonderful. He crawled around. He played a little bit. He took some naps. He cried a little bit, but no more than we did. And so he was really great in the whole time. But we kept thinking, oh, we've got this baby. We've got to get to Atlanta. We got to get this situation solved. And so we finally took off at about 11 o'clock p.m. We boarded the flight at 4 p.m. It was a long day. We saw our flights from Oklahoma City all take off. We knew that there was not going to be any hope for us to get to Oklahoma City that night. So then we started looking for a place to stay in Atlanta. And by that point, all of the airport hotels were gone. Everything was gone. All right, so I have flown all around the world for a long time. And I have never, not one time, been stuck sleeping in an airport. And here we were with our kids and our grandson, and we could not figure out a solution for not sleeping in the airport. I felt like a complete travel failure. I really had no idea what we were going to do. I couldn't imagine having a 15-month-old. Did I mention the 15-month-old before? Had no idea that we were going to be able to have him sleep on a floor in the Atlanta airport. There's got to be something better. We finally get into Atlanta at almost 1 a.m. I go to the line to check out with the Delta folks. How can you help us? And the line was longer than a line at Gideon's Cookies in Orlando. It was the longest line that I've seen, which wasn't moving, and it was probably 2 hours or more long at 1 a.m. There was no hope. So, like the troopers they are, my family rallied together. My son and daughter-in-law, they fixed a really cool little tent for the grandson, and he slept on the chairs and had a nice little covering over him so that it was dark and reasonably quiet, and he got a pretty good night's sleep. As the granddad, as the grandpa, as the G-paw, I just couldn't go to sleep. I was not going to sleep or close my eyes for even a minute, even though the rest of the family was not sleeping very well. I was not going to sleep because I didn't trust that the Atlanta airport was a place that you could allow your 15-month-old grandson to sleep and be safe. So I stayed awake the whole night to be able to do that. In fact, this is the shirt, 24, 36 hours worth of wearing this shirt. It's come out okay, and it still looks pretty good. But doggone it, that was a long, long, long night. And that was not the kind of way that you want to end a trip that had gone so perfectly. Really, I think there's a bit of a story that goes to that. And that is just this idea that everything can go right. So many things can be perfect. Life can be going along so well. And then all of a sudden you realize at the very end, something just completely goes haywire. That didn't destroy the trip for us. It didn't ruin what we had experienced. It sort of melded us together. Because when it comes down to it, when we finally made it home on Monday, mid-afternoon, and we were in great shape with our health and safety, and the pilots did a magnificent job of making sure that we got out in the right time, the key thing for us to remember was not that everything went wrong, but how when things went wrong, we found a way to pull together, to work together as a family, to look out for one another and to protect one another during a time that could have been really tough. That's the lesson that I think we ought to take away from that. There is something that's really powerful for knowing that when the worst time that we could have imagined at that time, everything worked out just fine. Because we pulled together and we found a way to stay sane and to make sure that the 15-month-old grandson had a safe place to sleep. He had good food to eat, and he was in a place where he knew that he was comfortable and cared for. That was a trip that we will not forget. I can barely even spit out the words. It is hard for us to imagine what it was like to come back, sleeping on an airport floor in Atlanta, and seeing how many other people were there, and we all kind of found a way to make it work. Hopefully that's something that you can take away from this. It was a fun time for us, but we will never forget to come back, because that was the part that helps shape a family. From the Grandpa Chair, I'm John, glad to be home, and glad to have my Disney shirt.